Soulframe is a gorgeous new game in development from Digital Extremes, the makers of Warframe. A lot has changed since last year's new player guide, so it's time for an update. Here's everything you need to know to get started in Soulframe in 2026. Soulframe is still in its alpha phase, called Soulframe Preludes. This means things change a lot and often, so when you're watching older videos, things are probably going to look a bit different. This video is being made in June 2026 during Preludes 15. I keep all my videos and playlists sorted by Prelude to help you find up-to-date info. So with that out of the way, welcome to Soulframe. The game's opening cinematic will lead you through choosing the appearance of your mother, and your envoy will inherit her physical traits. Eventually, you will unlock the ability to customize your appearance in-game, but you can also replay the Warsong's fable from your journal if you want to change something sooner. Soulframe's story involves an alien race known as the Ode invading Alka to exploit its resources and reshape the planet to their needs. Through something called the Spell Song, the Ode turned the magic of Alka against itself, causing everyone affected to forget themselves. You must now fight the Ode, reclaiming the lost histories of your world and restoring Alka's natural magic. After washing up on the shores of Midrath, the beautiful island that is our setting for Soulframe Preludes, the game will prompt you to summon your guide. This is a sparrow that will fly towards your next objective, in this case a lovely little cottage. Before you get started though, it might be worth customizing your keybinds or your controller to make sure the settings are comfortable for you. Make sure to check the accessibility settings as well. Follow your guide into Grandfa's cottage to revisit a memory from your past and choose your Pact. Pacts are the source of your special abilities in Soulframe, which used to be called Arcanics and are now called Magics, but I wouldn't get too attached to this terminology. The game also has Arcanic damage, magic weapons, and magic armor, all of which are different from your Pact abilities, so we'll probably see some of these terms changed again in the future. For now, most players still refer to Pact abilities as Arcanics, so that's what we'll call them here. Pacts manifest on your envoy's right arm, and you will be able to freely swap between all the pacts you collect. For now, the game will ask you to choose your starting pact. Each of the 3 starting pacts is aligned with a virtue and a faction. You'll want to level up all of Soulframe's factions eventually, so don't worry about this just yet. Each pact also comes with a starting weapon, but it is very easy to get new weapons if you don't like your first choice. You can also get the other starting pacts, but it will take longer than getting new weapons, so make your choice here based on the pact you're most excited to play. Sirin is a great pact for people who enjoy stealth and strategy. Its 3 Arcanics are Glamour, which transforms you into a flock of butterflies, making you invisible; Trick of the Light, which summons a decoy to taunt enemies, then explodes, dealing AoE damage; and Pictrix Powder, an AoE crowd control ability. Oscelda is a support-oriented pact. Its 3 Arcanics are Elder Bloom, which plants a flower that will heal all allies within range; Phantom Flock, which summons a flock of birds to crowd control an enemy; and Bestone, which will turn enemies into stone and deal extra damage to them when you break the stone with an attack. Tethren is perfect for aggressive fighters. Its 3 Arcanics are Fellust, which gives you a stacking damage buff; Call of the Ancients, an aura that gives you an AoE taunt, an armor buff, and a flat damage buff; and Clash, which staggers enemies around you and enhances your stability. You can try out each of the 3 starting packs as many times as you like before you lock in your final choice. Once you select your pact, only one of your 3 abilities will be unlocked. Arcanics unlock and get stronger as you level the pact, so don't judge your pact until you get it to level 30. All of the starting packs are quite strong. As you level your pact, you'll also gain arts that you can spend on upgrades, which will enhance your pact abilities or boost your virtues. To learn how all that works, let's take a trip into Nightfold. Nightfold is a sort of pocket dimension where you can swap your gear, change your build, and interact with your ancestors. This bookshelf in the back of your tent is your arsenal, where you can customize your build. The first thing you'll see when you open up your arsenal is the virtue interface. Soulframe's 3 virtues are Courage, Spirit, and Grace, and they are the basis for most of Soulframe's scaling. You get more virtue points by increasing your envoy's rank, which you do by leveling new pacts and weapons. This is your weapon experience bar, and this is your pact experience bar. You can rebalance your virtues by moving the pebble on this virtue interface. While you're moving the pebble, the numbers will show you how many of your envoy's virtue points are being distributed to each virtue. When you release the pebble, the numbers will show you your total virtue value, including bonuses from your equipment. When your virtues are set the way you like, click Confirm. Each of your Pact Arcanics will get stronger when you have more points in its attuned virtue. So, your Courage Arcanic scales with Courage, your Spirit Arcanic scales with Spirit, and your Grace Arcanic scales with Grace. How that scaling works varies for each Arcanic. They might do more damage, last longer, or reach further, but in general, the more points you have in that Arcanic's virtue, the stronger or more effective it will be. Virtues will also affect your character in a more general way through Envoy Scaling. Points in Spirit make your Arcanics recharge faster but give you the least amount of health. Points in Grace increase your headshot and sneak attack multipliers while giving you a medium amount of health. And points in Courage give you the most health, making you pretty tanky on full Courage builds. Soulframe's weapons and armor are attuned to one or more virtues, and each item's stats will scale with the virtues it's attuned to. There are caps to this scaling, but as a new envoy you can safely boost your gear's attuned virtues to increase your damage and toughness. Once you start getting new weapons and armor, you'll need to pay attention to virtue requirements. Even if your weapon can scale with more than one virtue, it won't get more damage from either virtue if you don't meet its virtue requirement. Some weapons only require one virtue, but some require two, and in those situations you will need to meet both requirements to get the scaling from either virtue. Armor bonuses also scale with virtues, and, just like weapons, if you don't meet an armor piece's virtue requirement, you'll only get the minimum armor rating from it. You won't have a sidearm to equip right away when you start, but you can get one as a drop from slaying enemies near Grandfa's cottage. Once you do, you'll be able to equip it here and then swap between your main weapon and your sidearm during combat. You can get most of Soulframe's weapons from killing enemies or looting chests and weapon racks. Soulframe also has crafting, which we'll get to later, but for now just know that you have a limited inventory capacity for weapons, packs, and armor, so you might not want to keep every weapon you find. When a weapon drops, you can preview its stats, and if you don't want to pick it up, you can dismantle it for crafting materials instead. You can also dismantle weapons in your inventory, but only while you're in Nightfold. If you see a weapon with white leaves and this icon in the top left corner of its card, congratulations! You've found a Moonsteel weapon. This is a very rare cosmetic effect that has no bonus in combat but looks pretty cool, so you'll probably want to keep that or make room to pick it up. You start out with 50 inventory capacity minus what's being taken up by your starting equipment, and you can buy more from Zenith, the camel in your Nightfold, using Arcs, which are Soulframe's premium currency. Zenith also sells Soulframe Founders packs. I'll put a link below to a video with more information about Soulframe Founders, including what you get in each pack. Soulframe is a free-to-play game, and eventually you will be able to trade with other players to get arcs if you don't have money to spend on the game, but trading is brand new to Soulframe in Preludes 15, so while future arc trading has been confirmed, it has not been enabled yet. If you want to trade items with other players, you'll need to have two-factor authentication enabled on your account. This is your Pact interface, where you can swap between the packs you've collected. Clicking the Upgrade button will let you spend arts on Pact upgrades. You gain one Pact art each time you level up your Pact, and you can reset your arts whenever you like to try out different upgrades, so feel free to experiment with your builds. This is your Combat Arts interface, which is supposedly changing in the future, but we haven't heard any updates on that for quite a while. You'll gain a new combat art for that weapons category, which Soulframe calls Grip Type, at levels 1, 5, 11, 19, and 30. Just like with Pact upgrades, you can reset your combat arts at any time to try out different bonuses, so go ahead and experiment with different playstyles. That said, there are some combat mechanics that are good to know right from the start. Attacks in Soulframe deal both damage and stagger. This red bar shows your envoy's health, and the white bar shows the amount of stagger you've taken. When you block an attack, you will only take stagger instead of damage. The amount of stagger your envoy can take is determined by your stability rating, which can be enhanced by both your gear and some Pact abilities. When your stagger bar fills, you will be knocked prone. Filling an enemy's stagger bar makes them vulnerable to a finisher, a special attack that deals massive damage. Both melee and ranged weapons have a basic attack, and a heavy or charged attack. Melee weapons can also be thrown, and if you attack before recalling your weapon, your Envoy will perform an unarmed strike. You can also kick in close combat, which will stagger your enemy and can help break blocks. Bows have a basic shot, a charged shot, and an AoE attack called Arrow Hail. Basic shots and hails will embed arrows in terrain or targets. If you hold a drawn arrow until it flashes with light, it becomes a charged shot, and it will deal more damage than a basic shot. The first combat art for bows causes charged shots to splinter nearby embedded arrows. There is one bow called Avex that has a special melee strike instead of Arrow Hail, but you probably won't see that one until later in the game. Fly blades are a special sidearm with 2 attack types. Basic attack inputs will throw the blades, and heavy attack inputs will send them orbiting around you. When you take damage in melee combat, you'll see this yellow bar appear when you lose health. This is your health regain window. Performing a melee attack while this window is active will allow you to regain that amount of health. You can also heal using health potions. These drop from slain enemies, and by default you can hold 5 potions at a time, but the Physic Pact upgrade will allow you to hold up to 7. If you perfectly time a block with an incoming attack, you'll parry that attack, which costs very little stability and instead deals stagger to your enemy. If you have the riposte combat art for the weapon you're using, you can follow a parry with an attack input to perform a special counterattack. Magic weapons do have a block, but they cannot parry or riposte, only deflect voltaic projectiles. If you perfectly time a dodge to avoid an incoming attack, a golden glow on your character will indicate a perfect dodge. If you have the Spectre Strike combat art, you can follow a perfect dodge with an attack input for another special counterattack. Magic wrist casters can Spectre Strike, but a magic staff cannot. And bows cannot Spectre Strike either, but they can parry and riposte. Instead of critical hits, Soulframe has smites. When you smite an enemy, you'll hear this sound effect and see its soul glowing around its body. You can then hold down your Spectral Sight button and perform a basic attack to pull that smite, or you can set a custom bind for pull smite. Each soul will have a color that corresponds with one of your virtues, just like your Pact Arcanics, and when you pull a smite, it will recharge the Pact ability of the corresponding color. The pull smite input combo is also how you kill mockeries, free defeated hounds, and charm animals to get totems. When you see an animal and pull smite in its direction, your Envoy will pull out a Fipple flute. These lines represent a musical staff, so each line corresponds to one note on your Fipple flute. Successfully playing the charming song rewards you with one of that animal's totems. You'll also get some harmony, which you use to upgrade totems and runes. You can equip totems in Nightfold by selecting this circle here to open up your weapon enchantments. Select a totem slot and then choose the totem you want to equip. You can equip a totem in any slot you like, but putting it in the slot for the virtue it's attuned to will give you a stronger bonus that scales with your points in that virtue. This circle in the center is for your rune, and equipping one will give your weapon an extra totem slot. You can get some runes from chests while others drop from specific bosses. Each rune gives your weapon a different special ability. Pulling smites charges up your rune, and then using your weapon rune keybind will consume 1 charge and activate the rune. Each rune works a little differently, but the first runes you find will give you a weapon attack with boosted damage. You can release your extra totems and runes to get more harmony for upgrades. Spectral Sight, which players sometimes still call Soul Mode, will highlight loot and quest objectives. You can enter Soul Mode by holding your Spectral Sight keybind. This will make many interactables a lot easier to locate and can sometimes reveal clues for solving puzzles. You can see your Envoy's armor rating here in your Nightfold, and this is the stability rating we talked about earlier. Your physical armor reduces the amount of damage you take from physical attacks, and your magic armor reduces the amount of damage you take from magic attacks. Enemies have armor too, so some will be much tankier than others. If an enemy's health bar is gray, that means your attacks are not powerful enough to bypass their armor, but this is calculated for each incoming attack, so things like buffs or armor strip can make a gray bar turn red. If you die in combat, your soul revives with a sparrow at the nearest shrine. You can fly back to your body to pick up where you left off, or revive at the shrine if you'd rather have a fresh start. If you press spacebar or right trigger, you'll fly faster when you're flying back to your body. Alright, so you're ready to take on the Yode as you explore Midrath. It's time to go find your ancestors and Omen beasts. Ancestors and Omen beasts are allies that you meet through completing Fables, which are Soulframe's story quests. Most of these Fables are now part of quest chains that you can follow in your journal. Some are part of Soulframe's main storyline, while others are part of Orlick's Sagas. You can track the Fable you want to work on using this button in your journal, and when you summon your guide, it will lead you towards the next objective in that Fable. If you right-click your map, you'll set a waypoint, and then your guide will lead you towards that waypoint regardless of what your journal is tracking. If you're tracking a Fable and your sparrow still hovers in place when you summon her, then you might need to search the area to find something or solve a puzzle before proceeding. Your first Fable is called Rise, Envoy. This automatically appears in your journal when you start the game, and after visiting Grandpa's cottage, dropping into Nightfold, and choosing your Pact, this Fable will lead you to a World Tree. These are giant trees corrupted by the Yode, and healing them will reveal a portion of your map. When you're near a World Tree, you'll be able to see other players, inspect their gear, and invite them to join your squad if you want to team up. From there, your guide will lead you towards a Fable called The Last Pensive, in which you'll meet Orlick the Scribe. Follow your sparrow to find him, retrieve his quill, and return it. After you finish an Ancestor Fable, make sure you go to Nightfold and walk towards the glowing light you'll see there, which will make that Ancestor's platform rise from the water. Only Orlick, Tuvolcane, and Verminia will join you in Nightfold, but after you've completed their quests, most Ancestors and Omen beasts can show up in the world to offer boons. Talking to Orlick in Nightfold will let you begin his Sagas, fables that will help you learn more about Soulframe and its game mechanics. Soulframe's main storyline quests will automatically start as you progress through them, but Orlick will help make sure you don't miss any important side quests. He'll also introduce you to history motes. These are little soot sprites of points of interest that you can collect using your Pulse Smite input, and doing so will translate locations on your map and in your journal. Gathering motes will also give you experience towards your Envoy rank, so it's definitely worth collecting all of them. Relatively early on in your journey through Soulframe, you'll get a Fable called an Invitation. This will introduce you to your starting faction. Each faction has its own mini-quest to gain entry to its faction enclave, and these are also part of Orlick's Sagas to make sure you don't miss them. The Silent Rose wants some booze that you can find in a chest here, Alka's Children needs an offering of a Sangelia flower at this shrine, and Kith of Kings needs you to defeat a ghost that spawns here, but only at night. You can enter all 3 faction enclaves, but you can't swap to a new faction or view its shop until you've crafted that faction's talisman. You already have the talisman for your starting faction, and you'll find fragments for the others as you complete Fables and Faction Tales. When you talk to your faction representative, you can ask about your standing, which will show you your rank within your faction. You can increase your rank by doing Faction Tales or by turning in Favours. Favours are items that drop everywhere in-game, and you can sell them to your faction representative to earn more standing. Each faction has a preferred favor that gets you the most standing, but all 3 favors can get you at least some standing with all 3 factions. Faction Tales are mini-quests that you can get from faction NPCs that spawn near you on Midrath, or from Votives that appear at World Trees and on various other interactables in the overworld. The game now calls these little fables Votives, but most players still call them Faction Tales. Higher tier Faction Tales will have more objectives to complete and reward you with more standing. If you're in a squad, you don't have to be in the same faction. Everyone gets progression for the faction they're in. Faction Tales can lead you all over Midrath, and sometimes they will take you into one of Soulframe's procedurally generated instances, the Undercity of Durmak and the Glades of Enderin. These are essentially Soulframe's dungeons, accessible through several entrances all over Midrath. You can enter them even if you don't have a faction tale, and you'll find a rare chest at the end if you go all the way through. There are more dungeons being added to the game over time, like Nethan's, which you'll have access to after completing the Wastebear Fable, and Ravgot Ruins, a Fallen Sky Tower tile set, but these don't currently appear in Faction Tales. World Tree Votives can also direct you towards Collectors, Organs, and Sieges, which are overworld encounters that offer great rewards. Votives can also tell you an Avocat is nearby, who will have a random stock of items for sale. You can swap factions once you've crafted the talisman for the faction you want to switch to, but the crafting recipe for faction talismans requires Sacred Shimmer. Sacred Shimmer is available at each of the faction shops when you reach rank 3, and it costs 5,000 standing. Once you have a faction's talisman, you can swap in and out of that faction whenever you like, so eventually you'll be able to freely swap between all 3 factions. Eventually, Orlick will leave you a note that will start the Steelsinger, which is the fable that adds Tuvolcane the blacksmith to your Nightfold. This unlocks crafting and is part of Orlick's Sagas, although if you want you can start it earlier by picking up the helm you find on the ground over here. Crafting in Soulframe is going through some major changes in P15. These systems are still a work in progress, so expect future changes. But for now, here are some basics. Most weapons drop from enemies, chests, and weapon racks, but some drop as fragments that must then be crafted by Tuvolcane. Both dropped and crafted weapons can have random tempers, which add a bonus to the weapon. Armor fragments are for sale in faction shops, are rewards from some fables, and drop from some bosses, and talisman fragments drop from chests and certain bosses. Both of these must also be crafted by Tuvolcane. You can refine weapons with Tuvolcane to increase their craftwork and add random tempers, and you can reforge your weapons with joinery, which adds pips of attunement to the weapon, making it scale more strongly with that virtue. But these are not something you should worry about as a new player. For now, focus on completing your fables and unlocking all your ancestors. Try out the weapons you get as drops because leveling them up will increase your Envoy rank, and later on you'll have a better sense of which weapons you want to invest in refining. What you will want to craft as a new player are pacts. You'll get the fragments for some new packs from Fables, and you can buy others in each of the faction shops. You'll also need crafting materials which you can get from chests, breakables, and enemy loot. Crafting takes some time to complete, but I do not recommend rushing it. There's plenty of other things to do while you wait. After you've completed the Brewer of Hues fable, which is part of the main storyline, Verminia will help you customize the appearance of both your Envoy and your armor. Recipes for new color palettes, which the game calls figments, are available in each of the 3 faction shops. These figments are not just 4 colors to choose from, but 4 color gradients, allowing you to adjust the brightness and saturation of each color when dyeing your armor. If you want to change not just the color but also the appearance of your armor, you can purchase Moonsteel thread from Zenith and use it to bestitch an armor piece. This unlocks that skin to use whenever you like. The selections you make for your armor skins and dyes will be saved to your loadout, allowing you to create different fashion looks for each of your builds. Verminia can also brew potions, like the virtue potion recipes you get from each of the 3 faction shops. Each virtue potion gives you 10 points in its virtue, lasts for 1 hour, and is very helpful for meeting virtue requirements. She can also brew Koga potions. Drinking one of these puts you into Soulframe's equivalent of hard mode, but that unlocks later in the game and is not something to worry about as a new player. After you've completed the Waste Bear fable, which is also part of the main storyline, this tree seedling will appear in your Nightfold. Every 12 hours it will sprout an acorn called a Wevet seed, and you can use these seeds to fast travel to any world tree you've revealed on your map. Mounts will be coming to Soulframe soon, so check the pinned comment for updated info, but in the meanwhile, this will help you get to where you need to go. The only fables that do not automatically start as part of the main storyline or get a hint from Orlick's Sagas are Orengall's fable, called the She-Wolf Snared, and the Wreck of Mestra Carmo. You can start the She-Wolf Snared by opening a chest beneath a red balloon and reading the note you find inside. The red balloons can spawn in several different areas, so keep your eyes open for it as you travel Midrath. The Wreck of Mestra Carmo starts when you search shipwrecks for fragments of the Duello ribbon, but they won't be there until after you finish the Steelsinger. The fable will appear in your journal when you collect the first fragment, and you can track the fable to have your guide lead you through its objectives. There's one last thing that new players should know about, which is the Crypt of the Circade. This did turn out to be a permanent addition to Soulframe, but it's remained largely unchanged, so I'll put links below to my original Crypt guides. This is definitely something worth checking out as a new player. And that should be enough to get you started in Soulframe Preludes 15. Please give this video a like if you found it helpful, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see updated guides on world bosses, runes and totems, and of course, crafting. So much has changed in Soulframe, and new systems are constantly in progress, so I'll be hard at work creating new tutorials to help you along. If you're an experienced Envoy already, thank you so much for watching and supporting my channel. Leave your best tips for new Envoys in the comments below, and until next time, happy hunting!